Welcome back to Windy Hollow Garage. On today's episode, I get to share with you my most prized possession. This is my 1933 Plymouth Roadster, powered by a big block Mopar. That's right, no small block Chevy here, folks. This car is super rare, having the big block Mopar for power, and it's due for its winter maintenance. We just got it back from Fab at the chassis shop, where Humpty Dumpty got all patched up from its Bluetooth Driveshaft episode last year, where it knocked out a couple bars and busted all kinds of things. Some of the upgrades we're going to go ahead and do over the winter while we got it in the shop is it's time for a new oil pan. And while we have it in here, we're going to go ahead and put in a swinging pickup in our oil pan. And this oil pan will kind of be nice. It'll get the pan now hangs down kind of low, so this will give us a little more ground clearance. And the swinging pickup, I think, will help us with our oil pressure staying consistent. But stick with us. We'll go ahead and do a walk around and introduce you guys to Midnight Magic. Alright, so this is Midnight Magic. So this is a tube chassis car with a fiberglass body, and we'll get to see more as we walk around here. But I painted the car myself back in I think like 2013, and we went ahead and paid homage to the old CUDA billboards and did the 383 billboard on the side. See, that turned out pretty cool. And the reason it has a 383 billboard is because it is indeed powered by a 383 big block Mopar. And it is a super simple engine combination. This is a 30 over 383 block with TRW old school 1980s 2293 high compression pistons. So it makes about 12-to-1 compression. Runs the old school TM6 Edelbrock intake. I've tested several intakes, and that one has proven to be the best one. It'll fit under my hood. And this engine actually runs 440 source heads. You can see those are just aluminum bare heads. It's gone 580 in the 8th mile. So has Mezzer water pump, ATI balancer, a little tiny, look at that little baby radiator. And then of course it's backed up by a Powerglide transmission. You can see you down there in the tunnel. And it's got a 9-inch Ford rear end in the back. And all your typical race car stuff. So it is time for its maintenance. You can see inside. So this car keeps me on my diet because there's not a lot of room inside, and it's kind of tricky to get in and out of. So this car has won a lot of races, but when it was first painted and all redone in 2013, this car was almost show quality, I would say. It won Best Engineered at the Monster Mopar, and you can see it has gotten some wear and tear over the years. This is where the driveshaft, when the driveshaft broke last year, that's where one of the pieces of the driveshaft chipped the body last year. So, but it's not a show car, folks. This is a race car that gets raced probably, oh man, 20-30 weekends a year. This car is getting raced. Oh, so one of the things we had Fab do while we had it at the chassis shop was my steering shaft had a little bit of slop in it before, and obviously going 130, this car runs 950s in the quarter at like 135 mile an hour, so having steering slop at 130 mile an hour is really not that ideal. So he redid all the steering shafts, you can see, and now you can see there is absolutely no steering slop. As soon as that thing moves, the front tire is moving. So that was amazing. That's a big upgrade for the upcoming season. One thing we got to do to get started here is we got to take the front end off. So this car has an engine diaper, which is to contain the oil in case the engine ever were to expire at high speed. So we'll go ahead and get the engine diaper out of there, get the front end off, so that we can see what we're dealing with here. Little gremlin wants her treat. Alright, so let's see if we can get this diaper out of here. Why are you so dirty? What did you get into? Oh my gosh. And the diaper's always full of rocks. Alright, it's time to drain the oil. So, fingers crossed. I figure we should do this first. That way, if there's anything nasty in here, we can get to addressing that. Alright, got our little magnetic plug, so the oil will hit the plug. So if there's any metal, it'll go right on the plug. Survey says. Oh. So it's got a little bit of stuff on the drain plug. But I know this car has broken some lifters and things like that through the season. So I would expect a little bit of stuff in here. Let's see, the oil is still pretty clean, despite having a ton of runs on it. I'll take the oil filter off and see how this looks. So we're going to cut open the oil filter for the Roadster. Alright, so the 1515R is definitely thicker than the regular 1515. I know the other difference is they don't filter quite as thoroughly. I think they do like 20 micron instead of 5 micron or something like that. Alright, so if you ever wondered what is inside these Wix filters, here you go. And you can see these have a pretty heavy duty spring in the bottom of them. Well, good news. The oil filter looks super clean. Well, not super clean, but it looked better than I thought it would, because I know this motor broke at least 2 rocker arms, and I think it suffered some trauma over this motor's got a couple years on it. I know it's had a little bit of trauma, so I expected there'd be a little bit of stuff in there. So it actually looked better than I anticipated. I thought it would be worse than that. It looked really good. There were just a couple little spots, mostly just silicone in the filter. So I think we're good to go. So these little screen filters are pretty good for kind of, if you like throughout the season, you can kind of pop your oil filter off and kind of check these screens, and it'll kind of give you an idea if there's something really going wrong with your motor, because if there is, these will obviously have metal flakes all over them. If they're not, then you're probably good. So I can't remember where I got these though. I need to look up. I got these like eons ago, so I need to look up and actually buy a couple more of these, because I don't think Betty White has one of these, and it'd be a good idea to add one. Yes. You already had your snack. You don't get endless snacks. You don't get endless snacks. So I talked to my engine builder this week, because when I pulled the drain plug, it had the drain plug. I run one of those Amazon super magnets on the drain plug, so it like attracts everything, and it had quite a bit of material on it, but it wasn't like bearing or shiny or anything. It was like a moly, I don't know, like a moly something. So I asked the engine builder, And he said that's actually really common. He said that's just the ring seating. He said that's the moly material off the rings as they go up and down in the bores. And he said that's nothing to worry about. That just means it's still a fresh motor breaking in. So that's a win. So we'll cut the filter open. The filter didn't have anything in it. It just had a couple of maybe some silicone and a little bit of aluminum when it broke a rocker arm back in the day. So rocker arms back in the day. So should be good to go. And so we'll just keep moving forward and see what happens. All right, so we're back under the car here, taking a look at all the goodies, seeing what happened over the year. So when the U-joint broke, right here, you can see she exited stage right. A nice big chunk out of the body right there. That's where that paint is chipped on the other side. And then this tube up here is what saved my junk, because this tube here is what took the brunt of the impact. When the drive shaft broke there, it just whipped around. It broke. So I was actually foot braking the car at a nostalgia race, and I launched, and it immediately had a vibration at the 60 foot. I thought I was just shaking the tire, and then it just all heck broke loose. And so the drive shaft, you can see it, see the dent on this tube here. It just hammered that tube all the way around, but it didn't break, thank goodness. All right, so Larry put a little bit bigger bar up there for me, so that if that breaks again, hopefully, I don't know if that was chromoly before either, the way that thing smashed, but you can see actually ripped the aluminum right there. That's where the drive shaft was whipping. It was just whipping around in the wind, tore up the aluminum pretty good. But so it also, like, so this tail shaft, so it had a factory Powerglide tailshaft on there back then, and when the drive shaft broke, that thing just smashed into 1,000 pieces. So basically the entire transmission and everything was literally just hanging. You could just, this was all open, this was just smashed and open. There were just chunks missing everywhere. It was a disaster. But luckily the engine plates did their job. The engine didn't flex or fall out or anything like that. Having the dual engine plates helped. And now we've got heavy duty U-joints up front, thanks to Truck Shop in Newark. And I don't think those have grease joints in them like the old ones do. No. Those were supposed to be they didn't like the ones, I took them ones from Jegs, and they said, we have heavier duty ones than this, so how about we use those? Whatever. Oh, there's the place I bought it from. Super Duty Driveline in Newark, Ohio. So they were able to get my drive shaft fixed back up. See, this is the smallest drive shaft they're able to make. So the car was flexing a little bit back here. The rear suspension was flexing. The wishbone, you could actually like take it and kind of, I could manhandle it and squeeze it in because these bars weren't here. It was just the little U. And so this bar was flexing, and this is what keeps the rear end like straight in the car. So on occasion the car would, if you corrected the car, you're kind of chasing it between the steering being a little bit loose and then this being a little bit loose. So this was flexing, and then Larry said he could see that this was flexing too. So you can see he gusseted this and this and this and this. So we got all kinds of new stuff back here, and this thing is super simple back here. We got the competition specialties shocks and got a big Magna Fuel 500 fuel pump. They're mounted very out of the way with a big giant think it's a 12, 10 or 12 fuel line. That's a giant fuel line. Really isn't any more money. You go from 10 to 12, so you just might as well buy the biggest thing you can. And honestly, the big hose is easier to work with than the small hose. So, well, we're back on the Roadster this morning. We're gonna climb underneath and try and get all these bars painted up that are bare metal right now, so they don't rust. And do a few other things while we're waiting on the oil pan to come back. I had to get the holes, the old holes welded up, so my new pickup will fit in there. So we're waiting to get that back. And I had to take a couple of days off from the shop because I hit my head on the lift and pert near knocked myself out. And so I had to take a few days off from coming out here because I just spent all my time walking around looking for tools because I hit my head so dang hard. I'm pretty sure I must have had like a concussion or something. So I think we can come out and work again today. I think I've gotten some of my wits about me again. As good as maybe it's, I don't know, TBD. So we'll climb under here and see what we got. So I've been working under the car for a while. Wiped everything down with brake cleaner and then painted all the bars that got welded up so there were no bare metal showing so nothing can rust. And it's always a good idea to clean everything up at the end of the year just to check all your welds and things like that. You can see our little shop dogs are out here helping today. They got some T-bone steak leftovers this morning, so they're probably not going to be much help this morning because they're in little doggy heaven over here. So the new oil pan is all welded up, and it's got the swinging pickup in it now. Hopefully everything goes as planned. This is kind of a big change, changing out your oil pan and going to an external pickup. This is quite a bit, kind of a big change for next season. So I'm hoping this ends up being worthwhile. I'm a little nervous about this. All the bolts are out of the oil pan, but she is, I think she's silicone on there pretty good. So this is probably going to take a little bit of finesse to get this off of here. So. Alright, I think we finally broke the seal on this thing. I think we can finally drop the oil pan out after wrestling with it for, I think it was on there. This thing was sealed up like a submarine. And this is our gasket / windage tray. So I don't see any metal or anything, so that's a good sign. We are going to replace this pickup with a block off because we're not using this anymore. So we're going to unthread the oil pickup and we'll go ahead and put in an oil block off plug. Well, we have our first clearance problem. So I have main studs in the big block, and the main studs are hitting the back of the oil pan. So I don't really want to grind on the engine block with it in the car because there's really no way to keep the shavings from getting into the motor. So I'm going to try and just clearance the oil pan a little bit. It's got a super thick pan rail here. So I think we can just, I marked it with, yeah, that didn't mark it in, it's this mark right here, but this one. So we're going to try and just give that just a little tickle with the die grinder, clean it up just a little bit, and hopefully get the clearance that we need. I'm going to go ahead and put the plug, I got my 3/8 plug, and after an hour of randomly looking around the shop, I finally found my thread sealer. So thread sealer really can't go through the motor, so. Alright, we got just a little dab on there, and we will run this sucker in. So there it is, I'm all blocked off right there with a little bit of thread sealer. I figure we'll go ahead and do that now while we work on clearance in the oil pan and give it a chance to dry. Alright. If you're wondering how much damage the broken drive shaft did to Grandma's piggy bank, well, I'm actually going to share that. So I added everything up It broke on, actually broke during time run, so we lost the entry for the day. So that was about $150 because it was a kind of a big race we were at. And then the chassis work. So the chassis work was more than this, but we'll just consider part of it was this, and then I had some other things done too that weren't part of this. So we'll say at least $1,000 of the chassis work worked just to fix the drive shaft. It might have been more than that. It's probably closer to 1,200, but so it broke the tail shaft. The tail shaft on the Powerglide was shattered like glass, so I had to change out the tail shaft. That was $200. And when you change the tail shaft, you also have to change the yoke. So I had to change the yoke. That was another $200. And then the other big thing was the drive shaft. Obviously, the drive shaft was destroyed. And so the drive shaft with all new U-joints and stuff, I think that was about $365. So if I carry the one and add the two and stuff, it comes out to right around $2,000 was about the total cost for that little mishap. So make sure you check your U-joints, folks, because I probably could have prevented that if I would have gotten under the car earlier in the season and kind of checked the U-joint, because there were probably signs, I just missed them.
Rough lesson to learn.
An expensive lesson to learn, so yes. So the chassis turned out really nice. I really like how all the updates went. It's definitely a lot more rigid back there, so can't wait to test that out on the track. So we have a few more things to button up on the oil pan. It's kind of a big upgrade for me. I'm a little bit anxious to see how that turns out, but we have one more big upgrade coming in the next video, which I'm not sure if I want to share with anybody because it's supposed to be a secret, but I guess we'll see.
As always, don't forget to like and subscribe so you see when the next video comes out. Roast him in the comments for me a little bit. It always makes me giggle. And we'll see you on the next one.